Lyall, we're here today to talk about the digital freight platforms. I know this is a topic that's close to your heart.
Yeah, very much so. Yes, 25 years in.
Absolutely. So we were chatting earlier about a whole heap of, when we say the word platform, it's a big word and it can mean a whole bunch of different things. But when we think about it in terms of the logistics space, it's a growing area, something that's becoming more and more important. But there are a few different flavors or a few different categories of freight platforms. And a lot of it comes down to the operating model or I guess sort of the North Star, even commercial model sometimes behind the platform. Could you maybe give us a few examples of the different categories that you see in our industry?
Yeah, sure. I think the key types, if you want to call them that, are platforms which are set up to service a marketplace, and they can really fall into one of two types, if you like. So there are platforms which are essentially digital brokerages, where a forwarding business, typically, or a 4PL or a 3PL, will deploy a platform, but essentially they will interface with an ecosystem of suppliers, if you like. So it's very much what we would call a proprietary model,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very much a one-way street. Typically, the 3 or 4PL will be sitting there and will be looking to procure freight transport on behalf of their customer. The other model, and this is what TEG has practiced for the past 25 years, it's how we started off, and it's our established operating model, is that the platform is completely neutral, and we don't come between the two parties. Furthermore, all the parties on the TEG platform, and they are all freight transport businesses, both small and large, can actually trade both ways with one another. So they can procure capacity, they can sell capacity on the marketplace. Those are kind of like the two marketplace models that you would see in our industry, and in my experience, certainly. There is, of course, a third model, if you like, which is where it's more of a kind of tech deployment, and not so much of the kind of marketplace aspect. It's probably absent in that case. And literally, if you think about again, coming back to our industry, a 3 or 4PL might choose to roll out an app, a mobile app, for example, to carriers and drivers, and expect those businesses and those operators to use that. Again, it's a very much a one-way street.
Gotcha. So there's a few really important details here. So if I'm a 3PL or I'm a carrier looking at digital platforms to help me with some of my sustainability goals, some of my efficiency goals, I've got an organization that wants to be more digital, that wants to embrace the benefits of it. The details are really important. So is the platform that I'm looking at or that I'm considering, what is its business model? Is it responding to RFPs for shippers? Is it handling that shipper payment and maybe taking a commission and passing it on? Because that fundamentally is a broker-style business model. Or is it a neutral platform that is connecting multiple buyers and sellers? And that word marketplace is really important, because by definition, it means that there are multiple buyers and multiple sellers. That is what a marketplace is. It's not a one-to-many relationship where there can be a platform for sure, but actually all the demand comes from one entity. That can't be a marketplace. As you say, it's a one-way direction. So it's critical for 3PLs and carriers and everyone in our industry to really understand at a detail level, what's the commercial model for the platform that I'm dealing with, and what's their operating model? Is it a marketplace? Are they a broker, or are they independent?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical. So any operator considering participating in a digital marketplace, that's the very first question they should ask is, who owns the market? And what am I able to do in that marketplace? So you mentioned the word collaborative. It's my long-held belief that you cannot operate a collaborative marketplace if you can't influence both supply and demand. You've got to be able to do both. Otherwise, how am I going to bring those kind of synergies? How am I going to unlock that latent capacity if I can't actually both buy and sell in the marketplace? It's intrinsic. And you'd be amazed at the number of people that really kind of overlook that in the rush to just generate extra income or increase margins or whatever their motivation is at any given time.
Collaboration, I'm glad you mentioned it. I hear it a lot from 3PLs, a lot from carriers. And again, the detail is really important here around the ability to work together to get something done. And that word together, for me, is really important. It's this concept of give and take, a push and pull, as some people call it. It's a case of a 3PL maybe subcontracting some work out, but looking to utilize assets that they've got within their operation more effectively as well. I think this is a trend that we're seeing more and more of. And I know we've had some conversations with different operators at the moment around things that they're doing within their business, and maybe a shift from a very sort of one-directional relationship to a much more collaborative type relationship.
Yes. Well, what you've got to remember is that the background, especially here in the UK, to contract logistics is it's traditionally been very siloed. Each contract would be run on its own profit and loss account. Quite honestly, the customer has wanted their, if let's say it's a managed fleet, they've wanted that to be ring fenced from any other activity that 3PL might undertake. So how do you unlock any of that? It hasn't lent itself historically to collaboration, even though plenty of people have tried to really push that. Coming forward, not back, to 2025, I think there's a renewed emphasis on collaboration for many, many different reasons, not least of which is that we're in a very, very tight margin industry. And anything that you can do which can unlock some of that, I call it latent capacity, underutilized resource, has to be beneficial.
I think that the siloed nature of the organizations is a good point, because collaboration doesn't just mean different logos working with one another. A lot of it is down to business units working with one another. It's about one functional unit working with another, one customer unit working with another. And again, when they run on separate P&Ls, they're run in a very focused, often by acquisition growth of these organizations, that they are operating on their own. And we talked at a recent industry event around this kind of pyramid of collaboration and this concept that visibility is absolutely fundamental to effective collaboration. There will be vehicles running up and down past one another, sometimes from the same organization, just on different O licenses, where there's gaps that are unseen. So not just one logo working with another, but different business units, different contracts, and leveraging those opportunities.
There can be reasons for that, of course.
Please.
There's plenty of cases where a 3PL will have different contracts and there's incompatibility of freight. So that's more problematic, especially if you think about foodstuffs which need clean trailers, is not seriously going to mix with dirtier freight. But I think often as not, as I say, going back to historically, a lot of that inefficiency has been driven by the logistics service provider simply responding without pushing the envelope to the shipper, and really not wanting to actually say there could be a better way of doing this. And they've been very inventive and innovative in many other areas, so let me say that. But when it comes to this asset utilization and asset sharing, there's been a lot of wanting to achieve it, but actually getting stuff done and making a meaningful impact at scale has proven elusive.
Absolutely. And the need to, you talk about the very high cost pressure in the environment at the moment. Absolutely. That's, I think, more difficult than it's ever been. For sure. Yeah. But it gets worse and worse, or harder and harder. But also the big drive towards sustainability. So recent government headlines around grants and all sorts of incentives to get electric vehicles to zero tailpipe emissions out onto the road. But again, looking at driving sustainability through better collaboration. So how can I leverage that asset more effectively? And a lot of it, as you say, can be down to the 3PL's ability to challenge that customer. So we talk to organizations all the time who are dealing with customers who are concerned about their vehicles being back on time, right? I've got to make sure that stuff gets into that warehouse or into that customer on time. Yes, I want to reduce my scope 1 or scope 3. Yes, I need to do it effectively, but it cannot delay the rest of my operation. So this kind of culture shift as well is really, really important. And I'm glad that we're talking about it and we're hearing it now, because it will drive this change.
What you've got to remember, of course, is that, and this is, I always use the analogy of why Uber, the Uber ride-hailing business and their food business are very successful, but their freight business, although it manages billions and billions of dollars of freight, is less so. Freight is messier. Even where you've got contracted freight, stuff does go wrong. It's not a perfect world. It's not a train timetable, even though some people would like it to be. And that's where you get the problems, because when businesses look at how they could sometimes have asset sharing, they are very reticent to do anything which may mess up their plan. Because at the end of the day, they are there to serve their business. And their business, for example, is selling food. It's retailing clothes. It's making manufacturing products on a just-in-time basis. So these are some of the problems that we need to overcome. And I think some of the more modern technologies which are now starting to come into place. Automated planning has been obviously around for a long time. It's getting ever more effective. But also some of the things I've seen in the market in the last 18 months. Very, very early days, but are starting to make an impact, such as AI scheduling, are quite interesting. There's, something like, I read a report that something like 50% of loads do not run according to plan. So that means that half the time you are going to have to put your hands on that plan and actually make some kind of adjustment. And the adjustment has a knock-on to the rest of your day. Or the rest of your week.
Of course.
So that's the imperfect world in which we live in.
It's a great point. And again, we hear from operators who have these fantastic planning tools and genuinely do some amazing work in a very refined and controlled environment. As soon as something goes wrong, that plan has to go out the window, has to start again. And invariably things move. And the reality is that something gets delayed or something happens, there's an accident on the road, there's a delay, a driver calls in sick, whatever it might be. We're dealing with messy, scrappy things that need to be agile and need to be moving. So that resilience, to use another sort of key word from this year, is key around having that ability to flex, the ability to ramp up or ramp down is massive.
But the problem is, it also gives rise to massive inefficiencies. Anybody that's been operating in our industry will know that, and will recognise and will groan when they think about the distribution centres that everybody knows are always understaffed, never keep to their appointment slots, expect you as a haulier, as an operator, to turn up 2 hours before, and will turn you away if you're 5 minutes late. Yeah, but it's very difficult. It's a difficult environment to work in. But we've got to overcome these things, because otherwise we're never going to move anything forwards. We're going to be doing things, and it is changing. So I would say that, but we need to do things differently. We can't keep doing the same old, because otherwise we'll never get these efficiencies. Absolutely.
If I can just take us back to our talk around the platform element and the neutral side of it, and you gave an example around TEG and our independence. I think there was a really interesting story from across the pond with Ryan Peterson, who those who know will know, and the sale of the Convoy tech stack. Could you tell us maybe a little bit around why that was necessary from Ryan's perspective, and maybe what that means for people who, again, may be looking at digital platforms?
Yes, I mean, interesting enough, when it comes to platforms, there are literally thousands of workflows out there in the marketplace, and essentially they all do the same thing, I guess, which is, depending upon the complexity of what you're managing, they will present you with a workflow, and the operators work to and report to that workflow. I'm not sure I know enough about the specifics of the Convoy. I mean, that was just to go back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. That was a proprietary digital broker, and again, they were sitting as a party between the shipper on the one hand and the carrier on the other hand, and using the marketplace function in order to fulfil their customers' orders. Clearly, they built a good tech stack because they had a big bucket of cash to do that, but they could never ever balance those two competing requirements. So I think it was Flexport bought that tech, and then I think they sold it, didn't they?
To DAT.
DAT,
Yeah, absolutely.
yes.
Yeah. So Ryan Peterson came out with a press release on that, and why after I think it was only 2 or 3 years they went and moved that business or that asset back on. And a big part of the reasoning was, and Ryan Peterson I think described it really nicely as the neutral infrastructure layer. And as you say, all the while that Convoy are shipper facing, right? They are acting as a broker or an operator in this market. They cannot be the neutral infrastructure layer. And one of the articles I read in an interview with Ryan Peterson, they was talking about how they wanted, and they saw themselves as being one of the biggest customers for this solution, but they couldn't be the ultimate owners.
Yes,
because they need the platform and the true marketplace for logistics. The collaboration platform is bigger than any 3PL. Is bigger than any
for sure. I mean,
organisation.
no one, even the largest players on the planet, are never going to be as big as the whole of the market.
Absolutely.
And the whole of the market, by the way, is so complicated. And you've got, even if we just talk about transport and logistics or the movement of freight by road, we've got full truckload, less than truckload. I'm talking about in kind of using North American terminology here, but it translates across the globe. We've got first mile, middle mile, last mile, an increasing sophistication in terms of urban deliveries. That then kind of begets the question, what do you do out in rural areas? You've got drones, you've got the whole panoply of tech is being developed and deployed. Autonomous vehicles is a big area, of course, which shows a lot of promise. But yeah, I mean, if you want competing parties to work to your or to that common workflow, I mean, you can do it all through APIs as well, if providing that all the parties can sign up to those, which is difficult to achieve that. Otherwise, you have a common standard operating process in the middle.
And I think that's
but it needs to be impartial.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I think that's what Flexport recognised, is that neutral infrastructure layer cannot be owned or operated by anyone who has skin in the game.
Yeah.
We look at Amazon and all the rigmarole they have in Europe. The proverbial hit the fan in France because of the big marketplace operators out there. The EU now have strict structures in place around how they segment their retail and their marketplace businesses. I think Convoy recognised that and were forward thinking enough to say this neutral infrastructure layer has to be neutral. It cannot be owned by an operator. So if I'm a 3PL or I'm a carrier or I'm anybody in the industry, I need to think about what does that mean for my business, and is it really neutral? Look at the ownership structure. Look at the commercial model.
I think also helped that DAT were going to give them a turn on their investment.
Well, of course that helps.
Yeah, after a very short period of time.
Of course that helps. Buy versus build versus join. Why, Lyall, do you think it would be mad for a 3PL to invest hundreds and thousands or
millions,
way more than they would ever imagine,
yeah,
in building a whole tech stack to do something that other platforms are already available to do?
Because they can. So I'm not sure how many are now building from scratch. It's not like you can go and buy it off the shelf and customize it and put your logo on the top. It's so complex now to do that, especially, and it's one of the biggest concerns is cybersecurity and everything that goes alongside that. So I think those days of build your own DIY, I'm sure that there are still some out there, but I think it's increasingly recognised by businesses that are at that kind of scale that that isn't an option, or it's not a sensible option. So buy versus join, an interesting one. So TEG, which is now this end-to-end platform which handles everything from the onboarding of the participant, whether they're a broker or forwarder, asset-owning carrier, right the way through to smaller businesses and even down to owner-operators and such like, monitors the compliance and the veracity of those businesses throughout the life cycle, and then handles all the marketplace, handles the order execution, blends that again with all the different aspects of security, if you like, which are so necessary these days. Those aren't really, there's not really something that I'm aware that you can buy off the shelf.
Sure.
Certainly, we get approached to do kind of like white label versions of that, but it's a fairly bespoke piece of kit. Join, yeah, I mean, it depends really what you're looking to achieve. So we talked a few minutes ago about the two different kind of competing models in digital freight platforms, which are either it's a prop model, which is people in financial trading circles would understand that. Yeah, that's one buyer, whether they're a broker or a shipper, but typically a broker, and they will have their base of suppliers on that platform, versus the TEG way of looking at the world and approaching this problem, which is to say it's a neutral platform, it's impartial. That's the kind of keyword in this. So depends on what you're looking to achieve. Clearly, you're not going to go and join a platform which belongs to a competitor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I would say that's the thing which rules that out for many businesses. And you have to really dig deep with some of these businesses to understand exactly what they are and what their commercial model is.
Absolutely. And the buy versus join angle, and we do see around the world, not just in the UK and in Europe, but in the US as well, lots of operators, launching their platforms, talking about big investments in technology. It is a tight market, and efficient and effective use of capital is absolutely critical to organizations. Yeah. So where there are opportunities to leverage specialist platforms that fit the model in terms of neutrality and independence, it is a no-brainer versus going and spending significant sums of money and what is effectively a gamble in terms of user adoption. And if I'm a 3PL or a 4PL looking to engage with carriers, it's another platform I've got to go into. It's another platform.
And that's a huge problem. And historically, that's caused some of these mega projects to fail. And I would put it into very simplistic terms, especially if you're a carrier. Why do you want to go into yet another platform?
Of course.
You've got to learn the methodology. It's another login. It's another set of security protocols. It's another set of standard operating procedures in the platform.
Yeah.
How do I execute the order? Who do I report to? Remember, I've then probably got to integrate that with my own TMS or whatever software I'm using to run my own business. So that's why the platforms, again, which are impartial, have tended to gather steam over the past few years, especially.
Absolutely.
And remember, also, I can act, but if it's constructed in the right way, and the commercial model allows it, I can not only sell my capacity, I can also procure capacity as well, because a lot of these businesses want to do that. They don't just want to be there for one reason. They want to grow their businesses on the platform.
Absolutely, and that leads so nicely to this rise of what we're calling, or what we're seeing as the logistics collaboration platform. So this is the concept that there's a neutral place where I'm not going to be competed with. I'm not going to have my data. I'm not going to be sort of disintermediated to my customer. And I have the ability as an operator to both give and take, right? To work together to achieve better outcomes across sustainability, across efficiency, across service, across resilience on behalf of my customer. And that collaboration platform, we see a lot as a missing link here. So do not spend hundreds of thousands or millions of pounds building or buying a piece of proprietary technology. Please do not ask your carriers to sign up. The data tells us that they will not use it.
Yeah.
Any independent proprietary platform will not be achieving significant adoption rates in terms of PODs, in terms of milestone updates, in terms of any type of engagement, because carriers are too busy.
Oh, they're too busy, and you can't expect them to hop from system to system to system. We are all anyway hopping from different systems our lives, in our business lives, as well as our personal lives. But yeah, I mean, we've got to bring that down, and APIs can achieve a lot, especially, as I say, if you can integrate those with, depending, and this is a big if, those carriers and those participants and those operators are actually using some kind of software. Often they're not, or they're using something very rudimentary, or they might be using, what the most widely used supply chain software in the world is?
It's a green logo that begins with E.
Excel.
Exactly.
Exactly. In the wider supply chain, I heard that some years ago. I think it's still the case.
I think it's the most popular accounting package.
Yeah. So there you go. So I mean, some businesses, if they could do everything in Excel, would be or Google Sheets, I guess, would be very happy.
For sure. Great.
Doesn't tend to get you your milestones and such like delivered into.
No, and it doesn't interface particularly with SAP. I hear. And this logistics collaboration platform, this shift, is really creating a new solution in the market, a new category. And we think about, years gone by, we've seen businesses like freight exchanges be pigeonholed as a very sort of SME type solution.
And also very tactical.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Let's just mull that over for a minute. This move from collaboration platforms being a tactical solution, the last few percent in terms of what I'm trying to get done, the get me out of jail card, towards something that is
I've heard that before.
Absolutely. Yeah. Towards something that's far more strategic, helping me unlock my sustainability goals, helping me to win new tenders with customers, unlock new operating models for my business. Yes. I know we're well aware of that in terms of bringing on new capabilities through the platform and building something on top of that.
Yes, I mean, the thing which has, I guess, always been a feature of our industry and continues to be so today. And this, by the way, stands every region, every country across the world. It's not unique to the UK or any one particular region. Incredibly fragmented. So where you've got fragmentation, that's great because you've got resilience, but it also causes problems. Many, many problems. I won't even go into what they are now. But the interesting thing there is you've got opportunity. And if everything ran, like the train timetables, I'm not sure how often or frequently they change the train timetable. I can't say that. The train timetable here in the UK. But I think is it once a year or twice a year?
Once or twice a year.
Once or twice a year. Okay, right. And it's a big event. We don't live in that world.
Sure.
If we did live in that world, it would be much more predetermined and there wouldn't be much flexibility whatsoever. We live in a world where things change every day, every month. Volumes are continually changing. Locations adapt. There are new trading patterns all the time. What looked like it was going to be a solid route or lane for the next 2 years actually turns out not to be. Or it doubled in volume. So we're always in flux. And that's why the kind of platform, when it's applied sensibly and holistically to our industry, makes sense. And you're always, as an operator especially, you're looking to balance the cost and the overhead of running your own assets versus agility and flexibility by using others.
Absolutely. And that flexibility is absolutely the right way to describe it. So if I think about within an operation, certain geographies I'll have really good density. So great, I can run really good lanes, I can balance them off against different customers. But of course, it's not always like that. If it was like that, it would be simple. So the ability to not say no to things and not to get things wrong and to run things more efficiently and effectively is the ability to scale up when I want to say, great, a customer's just opened a new warehouse. Fantastic. Let's crack on. I've got a new customer RFP or RFI here. I want to be able to respond not just geographically, but also within capability. So I don't want to turn down that new construction.
Correct. You want to service that area, but you know what? It's all a little bit up in the air, and you're not quite sure what to commit, and maybe you haven't even got the capital to fully resource that yourself. So you don't want to turn it down. You're right.
Absolutely.
And that's why I just love the kind of platform model. As I say, applied sensibly, applied in a very kind of deterministic way, which allows you to pursue those opportunities.
Absolutely. A great example of that recently is electric vehicles. So lots of government initiatives coming out to drive electric vehicles in terms of a sustainability solution. Obviously very capital heavy in terms of that investment, and deploying them effectively again on a lane or a customer that works can be very difficult. We had a great use case of a logo that joined recently. We've done some PR on the back of it. Unlocking that electric capability into the network is a fantastic solution. So now any operator who is on the TG platform can instantly on demand tap into electric vehicles as and when they need them. I don't need to worry about charging them. I don't need to worry about making sure that they're...
And of course, that's the big problem with the electric network because it's in its infancy, especially for HGVs.
For sure.
Yeah.
So do not have the stress of the overhead, whether that is diesel or HVO vehicles, or these more sophisticated specialist kits, whether it's electric vehicles or certain type of specialisms, refrigerated or whatever it might be, tap into them on demand as I get that customer requirement come through, and flex up and flex down as I need to.
Yeah. Listen, very often, I mean, simply because of the rollout of the charging network, especially for large vehicles and heavy goods vehicles, it's a problem. You may want to do something, but you can't do it. You can't get a grid connection to that location for the next 2 years or 3 years.
Absolutely. So if I'm an operator and I've got a customer who's asking me, how can you help me achieve my sustainability goals that I've committed to the markets on my scope 3? As an operator, I shouldn't then be stressing about, okay, I need to start running some electric vehicles. Let me get on with the grid. Let me talk about my electricity infrastructure. Let me spin up a team that's going to run this whole thing. All I have to do is go to the platform and book an electric capable carrier. It's a whole transfer. It frees up all of that capital, stress, resource, bandwidth to go and do much more productive. Great, of course I've got electric vehicles, no problem. I can tap into them through the network and away I go.
Yeah. The transformation from where we were 20, 25 years ago with this category of business, which was typically described as being a freight exchange, through to a logistics collaboration platform, which I think is where we are now, has been a very steady journey. But actually, the things which have really marked that out, I can tell you, were trusted. And what trusted does is the verification, the compliance piece for every business that's on the platform, every operator that's on the platform has to go through that. What this does is it provides a level of reassurance that you know who you're dealing with. That's been critical, and it's very transparent. You can see what you're getting there. The other piece, which is really at the kind of someone would call it the final piece, the missing piece of the jigsaw, was always for us was the settlement piece. And I'll tell you why that is, because a platform like TEG has the potential to introduce you to lots and lots of new trading partners, business partners, both on whether you're buying their capacity or selling capacity on the marketplace. And quite simply, your traditional back office systems can't cope with that. They're all at sea. And we had seen the potential at a very early stage to make that a seamless process where the settlement process would be embedded within the platform. It took us a long time to achieve that, because obviously in business to business, you have to deal with all of the existing processes and also the whole workflow that's associated with accounts payable and accounts receivable as well. So we built that from scratch, integrated with a lot of the common accounting packages as well. So we're pushing and pulling data to those. But what we've now got is the ability for any business that wants to pay other businesses on the TEG platform. They can do that with literally a very, very streamlined process. And it doesn't matter whether they're paying a small handful or literally thousands of suppliers, including new businesses. We'll handle everything. We do all of the compliance, the verification, anti-money laundering checks, all the stuff that you would expect to be done on processing payments through.
Agreed. One of the things that's...
Sorry, I should say, sorry, before you go on, what we're doing at the same time is we're giving unprecedented levels of visibility to both parties. We would hear stories from some of the larger businesses who were procuring capacity through the platform about the hundreds and thousands of phone calls that they would receive each month from suppliers who want to see where their payments are, who want to see what stage their invoice approval has got to. We've given them that visibility.
Awesome. One of the things that really stands out for me is that organizations who previously may have had very stringent and very rigorous compliance processes, finance processes, onboarding processes, who before said, great, we do want the flexibility, but actually that's just a blocker for us. We can't deal with that many different organizations. The difference for me now is that with Trusted and SmartPay, we're now able to provide the framework and the infrastructure for these organizations to engage with one another through a common neutral platform.
Yeah.
And we've actually seen organisations who we've been in touch with a little while come back to us now and start to go through a process and really lean into it. That thanks to our ISO accreditation, thanks to our trusted DIATF, the government accreditation, we've gone through these really robust steps and processes to verify and demonstrate our capabilities. And now these large organisations who previously have gone, it's not quite for me, are now able to lean into the platform and see the benefits for their organisation and pass those on to their customers.